Yeah, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the EnOcean Alliance webinar. Thank you for taking your valuable time today. This webinar will be recorded, and we will send all attendees a link afterwards. During the presentation, you can anytime put your questions in, and at the end, we should have a few minutes time for questions and answers. If we don't get to all of the questions and answers, we will then answer them individually afterwards. Today, we have the webinar in two parts. I'm Graham Martin, CEO of EnOcean Alliance. I'll be giving an update on the opportunities and the benefits working with the EnOcean Alliance and creating new building projects. And then our EnOcean Alliance member, Titanium Intelligence Solutions from New York, Thomas Richards, the Chief Strategy Officer, will be showing some of the best case practices. And then at the end, you're welcome to ask us questions. So start off, what are the trends we see at the moment? In many parts of the world, we're seeing an energy crisis, which may also become a financial crisis. In some parts of the world, we've seen energy prices increasing factor 2 or 3. We've seen interest rates increasing. We've seen inflation rates of 10%. And also, the pandemic is in most parts of the world considered basically over, but some of the trends have remained. We now put more effort on health and wellness, air quality, healthy buildings. And there's still a lot of people working from home or working hybrid models, meaning a lot of our spaces are not occupied, which means we're wasting a lot of energy and creating a lot of unnecessary CO2 output. What is also happening is a lot of countries, major corporations, institutes, etc., have set net zero goals. 70 countries, 1,200 companies, they all have targets to become CO2 neutral within a certain period of time. Some of the examples here, the EnOcean Alliance promoter company Microsoft is committed to go carbon neutral by 2030. Some others even sooner. And then even complete continents have committed to go carbon neutral. For example, the European Union by 2050. And there's a lot of government legislations and program in North America or USA. President Biden has introduced programs to reduce CO2, I believe trillions of dollars. New York City has done certain things. Europe has the European Green Deal, which basically means 1/3 of the European Union spending will be to go towards climate neutral projects. So there's a lot of activity around going CO2 neutral, reducing energy, reducing CO2. Now, a big part of that is buildings. Buildings use about 40% of our energy, and sometimes up to half of that is wasted. And buildings are responsible for about 36% of our CO2 output. So to go carbon neutral, it is absolutely necessary that we do something with our buildings, including the entire building stock. That means we have to retrofit most of our existing buildings. Now, that's not going to be very easy, pulling cables or changing batteries, especially in an existing building. Going in and putting sensors and switches everywhere will be prohibitive. So that's why the EnOcean Alliance has come up with energy harvesting solutions for sensors and switches. All of the products have no wires, no batteries. You can go into an existing building or a new building and simply stick sensors and switches wherever you want. And then you start collecting the data that then enables you to control the building, monitor the building, reducing the energy and CO2 output of the building. Now, why wireless? I mean, we all use wireless every day. We all use mobile phones, we all use headsets, we all use wireless internet, known as Wi-Fi, navigation systems. So wireless is everywhere. So why do some people still use wired light switches and sensors? I don't know. It's not necessary anymore. And just in the installation, you can save. For example, if you have a very large office building with 1 million square feet, you can save up to 200 miles of cable. That's 42 tons of copper. That's 10 man-years of installation time and probably about $1 million. So it's very, very easy now to go in and do this. This is just an example of one impressive building. This is a large building about 650 yards long. The square. It has 20,000 wireless and battery sensors and switches, and it's saving over 60 miles of cable and I believe somewhere about 3 man-years of installation time. That's just in the installation. Then it also becomes what these sensors and switches are doing to save energy, and that can be 30% in a building scenario. So installing is usually lower cost. This is an academic study from a German university, Technical University of Rosenheim. They did a very detailed study comparing a wired installation smart building to a wireless installation. Identical feature set, identical results, both smart, both saving energy, both making good air quality, healthy buildings, but the wired solution was 20 to 30% more expensive. So installing using wireless is usually much easier, much lower cost, and more sustainable and flexible. So what can we do with this? So you can upgrade your existing commercial space, you can make your new build easier, you can make your building smarter, you can make your building healthier. A large part of saving energy in a building is knowing what parts of the building are occupied, which desks are occupied, which chairs are occupied, which conference rooms are occupied. Only then can you optimize the energy use. You don't want to be heating or cooling areas that are not being used. You don't want to have lights on in areas where nobody are. And simple things like this, or you don't want to have windows open if the air conditioning is on or the heating is on. So just by finding out all this data, it's very, very easy to save energy and to optimize the air quality, which in itself can increase productivity and reduce absenteeism. Also in smart home or modular homes or in ambient assisted living, we're seeing a huge growth in this. People want smarter, more secure, energy efficient, healthier homes. And there's a lot of work going into this in new home builds and also in areas like ambient assisted living. And again, using wireless, batteryless solutions is a major advantage here. For collecting data in buildings, there are other ways. You have the classical building automation system, you have the point-to-point control systems, or if you're collecting data for analysis, there's also the possibility to do this via existing Wi-Fi networks. The EnOcean Alliance has a partnership with Aruba. This means you can go into an existing building where there's an Aruba Wi-Fi network. You can add a USB stick to the Wi-Fi access points, and all of a sudden you start collecting the data from the sensors, which you simply stick on any desk, any chair, any wall, any ceiling, and start collecting data immediately. So we have the classical building automation, and we have the so-called smart spaces where we're collecting data to then optimize the spaces afterwards. So summarizing what the user benefits are. So if you're installing a building for your partner, and there are multiple benefits for them. There are savings in the installation time and cost. There are improvements in employee motivation and productivity in a healthy environment. There's less absenteeism in a healthy environment. If you're talking about office building, space optimization can help you save 25 to 40% on space and running costs. Now, one desk can cost up to $10,000 in a major city. So by optimizing, you're saving a lot of space, a lot of money, and a lot of energy and CO2 output. And typically, with the full building automation system, you can save 30% energy and CO2 in a typical commercial environment. And using EnOcean batteryless wireless technology is sustainable and maintenance-free for decades. Just an example, a lot of these large companies that want to go carbon neutral, that want to optimize their office space, that want to make healthy buildings. This is an example of a global organization with 62,000 employees. They now have shared desks with monitoring from EnOcean. They have occupancy monitoring. They don't want to put too many people in one area. That makes the air quality bad and increases the risk of spreading diseases. And therefore, they're getting higher productivity and well-being. This installation is ongoing as we speak. Up to today, about 12,000 employees are benefiting from this system, and over the next year, this should be rolled out. And there's about 250 large companies worldwide also doing proof of concepts with our technology to this end. So summarizing, if you work with EnOcean technology, you have the opportunity for the whole sustainability, energy saving, smart spaces. We have 400 member companies. We have 5,000 interoperable products. It's an open worldwide standard, and we are proven in over 1 million buildings. And we have a huge ecosystem and networking activity. So that was my marketing pitch, but just to show it's not marketing, I'm very happy to have our member company, Titanium Intelligent Solutions, here with us today to show us actual case studies that have been installed and the benefits thereof. And so I'd like to introduce Thomas Richard, the Chief Strategy Officer from Titanium, and also an EnOcean Alliance ambassador. Thank you. Over to you, Thomas.
Thank you, Graham. And I'm happy to be here, and I want to say welcome to everybody. And I hope I'm speaking to a topic that's very near and dear to all of us, because we're members of the EnOcean Alliance, and we expect to get some benefits from that. So the focus of what I'm talking about here is about, the EnOcean Alliance working together. So we can go to the next page. Thank you. So basically, Titanium has a cloud platform that brings the EnOcean Alliance members together. And through that, this is what the Alliance does. It helps with deliver interoperability and scalability. So okay, thank you very much. Okay, so when you have those capabilities, interoperability and scalability, what it does is it opens the door to bigger projects, and it's going to enhance your competitiveness, so much more success, okay? So now, what I'm going to go through, I'm going to be talking about sort of in 4 sections. I'll be talking about hardware solutions, software solutions, data, and reporting. So if we move to the next page, thank you. So on hardware solutions, one of the things that has been very successful for us is hardware combinations. Frankly, hardware combinations wins projects. So this really is a multi-member approach because when a customer is asking for multiple types of hardware functionalities, typically they don't all come from one member company. They'll come from a number of the members, right? One of the benefits of this is that for the customer, they're going to get the best of the best. So you might have a company that specializes in CT clamps. So, right, you get a really good solution there. Another one specializes in lead roofs, and so you get the best there, right? So we're able to take the best expertise and the best specialties from our members to put together a package for a customer, right? So let me give you some examples of how these hardware combinations have helped us. So we had a project, it was a lighting project primarily. They were going to replace all the lights in their retail stores, and they wanted a control platform for the lights. Now, kind of as a side issue, because this was the energy department for the company, they wanted to do thermostats too. Now, it was a lighting-driven project, even though it included thermostats. But so a lot of the lighting control companies they talked to just did not do thermostats. So that's what the customer was struggling with. We need lighting control and thermostats. So we won that project, and that was very good for us, and it was good for multiple EnOcean Alliance companies, right? Now, another one we did was, this was a thermostat-driven project, but the company was really big into sustainability, and they wanted power measurement with this, okay? Now, one of the things they struggled with is, because it was primarily driven by thermostats, they had difficulty finding a thermostat company that did power measurement. So when they did the RFP, they actually made the power measurement optional, but it was what they wanted. But is a large corporation, and they have large warehouses with offices attached to it. So they have to get multiple proposals, right? Quotes. So we won that, but we won that because we're able to offer the hardware combinations that solve the problems that the customer was looking for, right? To get solved, all right? And we were able to do that because we work with more than one EnOcean Alliance member company, right? So that's the power of the partnerships and relationships that we've developed within the Alliance. It's been very good for us. Now, we had another project for a warehouse where it was also thermostat driven, but we noticed that they had large warehouse fans, which ran 24/7, and they could just be turned off if someone wanted to, but manually. But basically, they just ran. So we controlled those, and basically, then we offered two things for them. One was a schedule. So when no one's there, they don't run the fan, they save energy. The second thing is the scalability. So we can control the warehouse fans across all of their warehouses, and they can apply corporate standards for that. So now these are 4 winning projects. Now there's also about enhancing projects. So we had a multifamily housing project. I think they call that, as I was on a call the other day, they call that build to rent over in the UK, I suppose Europe, right? But same thing. So anyway, it was a thermostat project with power measurement. So that combination of hardware that they liked. And we're sourcing the hardware from different companies, right? Not just one. Then what we noticed in their fitness room, because we put in some occupancy sensors there, and CO2 sensors. Again, more companies from the Alliance, right, to do that. And we noticed that the room was hardly ever used except the late afternoon to early evening. And then we looked at the CO2 and we saw that it went way above acceptable levels. Not good, right? Because the temperature is okay. So the HVAC unit is driven by temperature, not by the CO2. So we showed this to the company and suggested that then they set up a rule to kick off the ventilation. So that was a good add-on thing that we did for them. So then you bring in fresh air to the fitness room. The other thing that's good about these hardware combinations, because a lot of times the customer says, oh, like I said in the first example, I want lighting control. That's all they want, nothing else, right? But then later they might come along and say, oh, I have this issue. And you say, oh, I can help you with that. So since you're already there, present in their building, these just become additional add-ons to the existing installation. So it's a marginal cost to the customer. And then what it does for you, because you maintain a relationship with your customer, you have perpetual sales. This is always good for business like that, okay? So anyway, so I'm just gonna go through, this is the main part I wanna talk about in terms of interoperability, is the benefit of these hardware combinations coming from multiple members of the EnOcean Alliance. If we can go to the next page. So I did talk about how it helps us win projects, how it helps us enhance the value of a project we're already doing, and also how it helps in perpetual sales. Here's another way that it helps is building climate control. So all the things, we've been talking about a lot of different functions within a building, okay? So to be able to do this with multiple systems, now you're going to get into some of what Graham was saying, you know, it's going to, the installation costs to go through the roof. Some of the stuff might have to be wired and you have all those costs, and then you have different software applications and so on, right? But, you know, with the abilities that we have with the EnOcean Alliance and our cloud platform, we can go in and install, let's say, indoor air quality sensors, right? And then they say, oh, I want to know something about occupancy. And we install some occupancy sensors, right? And then, you know, really just as a thing I have observed and I really like is occupancy sensors come from a wide variety of things. So there could be like a trigger that will trigger for lights or HVAC. It could be for people activity and controlling HVACs and so forth. So that is really the benefit of the Alliance, is that I have a huge array of occupancy type sensors that I can choose from, seating, occupancy, and so forth. But you can roll this out over time. So again, this sort of perpetual sales, right? Once you're there. Now, one of the things that's at the heart of this building climate control is a thermostat that we have. It's a commercial and industrial thermostat. So what it does is it helps expand the verticals that you can get into. So you can get into large warehouses, large offices, industrial settings, and so forth. And since this is through the cloud, it's scalable. So when you install it, it's not just locally managed. You can apply corporate standards. And then there are, of course, sophisticated control methodologies and some simple things like you can lock the buttons through the software. And then if someone pushes the button, even though it's locked, they can't do anything, you'll get an alert saying that someone was pushing buttons on the thermostat. So there's different things like that. So then we'll go to the next slide. So I wanted to talk about our cloud platform. So one of the things that's very, very important is the bidirectional communication. Without that, you don't have control capabilities. And without the bidirectional, which includes low latency, you don't have scalability. So you can't control things across dozens of buildings, maybe in a large region, unless you have low latency bidirectional communication. The other is from a cost point of view and a corporate standard point of view, the remote capabilities. So you want remote monitoring, you want remote control. When you do commissioning for installation, we have remote commissioning. I mean, of course, someone has to physically install the sensor, and maybe in some cases you have to push a button, but all the commissioning, you could do the commission in New York for an installation in Maui, let's say, right? And then the configuration, which is primarily for thermostats, but you got to configure them for HVAC units. And given the way that people keep records for their buildings, you know, sometimes we ask for what HVAC unit they have, and they don't know. They have to go walk around and write the stuff down. So maybe it was pre-configured incorrectly because they gave the wrong unit. We can remotely reconfigure that thermostat on the spot so it doesn't delay installation. So I'll move on to the next slide, please. So the next thing is, so we've talked about hardware, we talked about software, and then I want to talk about data. The two components of data, real-time and historical. Without the real-time, you can't do some things I just talked about. You don't have the control, you can't scale, and you don't even want to think about automation, okay? The historical data, we save up to 3 years worth of data. More if people want to pay for it, but that data is important to confirm the ROI or the payback that was promised on the project, so you can do that. You can take the data and do analytics to improve efficiencies, and of course, if you're doing AI, you want clean data, so we offer that, okay? So then maybe we'll move to the next slide, please. So, and then we have an ESG dashboard. It's integrated. It's not a separate application. Dashboards, typically, they provide all the functionality with the graphs, et cetera, and reporting. But sourcing the data is something else. So a lot of times the burden is on the customer to source the data, set it up with APIs or however they do that. This is fully integrated and doesn't require the extensive setup that sometimes is required for standalone dashboards. And then to set up the charts, easy drop-down menu selections, dynamic charts, you can change time periods and which sensors you look at and so forth. So anyway, a lot of options for the charts. My favorite is a 3Y axis. I love that thing because a lot of times charts are just one metric, like temperature. But maybe I want to compare temperature to occupancy to CO2. I can do that all in one chart, okay? Another one of my favorites is the bottom one there is the heating degree days and cooling degree days. Absolutely love that thing. So basically, you know, could be energy consumption went up in August compared to the August of the previous year, but the temperature outside was exceedingly high for the current year. Well, you can normalize it with the cooling degree days and then really prove that you saved energy, right? And then you can do executive reporting here for your sustainability and decarbonization programs, right? Graham?
Yeah, thank you very, very much indeed, Thomas. That was very interesting. Just like to mention, for those of you in North America, we'll be presenting at the AHR show at the start of February in Atlanta. Please feel free to come and see us. And actually, if any of our member companies or potential member companies would still like to join us at our booth, we have a large booth. We have 1 or 2 spaces still left. Please contact us if you're interested in that. And for those of you in Europe, we'll be at multiple shows in the first quarter at the IoT World in Barcelona and at the ISH in Frankfurt, for example. So please come and see us there. It's exactly 30 minutes, so thank you, Thomas. We do have 3 or 4 questions. We don't have time to cover them today, but I do promise the people we will answer your questions separately. So again, thank you all very much indeed for joining today, and please feel free to contact us if you have any questions or any requirements. Thank you very much indeed. Have a nice afternoon, have a nice evening. Goodbye. Thank you.